Hello, hello, Train My Traffic people. Happy Tuesday, March 3rd. Hope you guys are having an awesome week so far. Welcome to our next Q&A call. I'm excited to be here with you guys. I'm sorry that we've gotten a little bit behind on questions here. I've had an incredibly crazy week. Lots of unexpected things happened in travel. Not going to get into that, but I'm back into the normal routine, and we're going to get as many of these questions knocked out on the call today. And then John has them all pulled up in this amazing list for me so that I can just knock out anything that we don't get answered. So thank you guys for your patience. Thanks for being here. I really hope you enjoyed the module from Thursday all about targeting. I got a lot of great feedback from you guys about that, which felt good, and I'm glad that you got a lot of value from that. And just to remind you of where we are in this process, right? So especially the first 7 weeks of this class is all about showing you how to build the best assets for a campaign, right? And specifically a Facebook ad campaign. And we just finished the targeting module, and this week we're moving into copy, which is one of my favorite modules. I think they're all my favorite. You guys can tell I nerd out about this stuff, but I really love the copy module. So this Thursday's training will be at the normal time, 4 p.m. Eastern, and that will be a live training all about ad copy. Last week, we got everything shot for the work-life balance course that we were teaching. So I thought it would be maybe 2 to 3 hours of content, and we ended up with like 12 hours of content. I think you guys are going to love that. I know it's not necessarily the topic of TMTP, but we talk a lot about mindset and just talk a lot about the personal aspects of business. And I think that'll help you guys a lot. So we'll have that edited for you guys. And again, thank you for your patience. So John is actually at a doctor's appointment right now. No worries. He is feeling okay. Nothing to worry about there. So he is not on live with me. So if you don't mind, guys, if you are live, we've got a big group of you all. Hey, thanks for showing up. Please don't use the questions box during today's training. Use the Facebook group. So Joe, hey Joe, it's early over there in Australia right now. Thanks for waking up for us. Joe is in the Facebook group, and she's going to make sure that all of the questions that get answered live, that we comment to let you guys know, especially if you're not live on the call, that that question was answered. But also anything else that you want answered, instead of putting it in the questions box, make sure that you put it in the Facebook group, because that's what I'm going to be using for the rest of the day to go through this list and get all of this knocked out. So let's go ahead and get started. Thanks again for being here. I hope you guys are staying safe. I actually canceled a speaking gig that I was going to do today. I just didn't feel that awesome about being around tons of people. So anyways, just make sure you guys are sanitizing and watching out for yourself. And let's go ahead and hop right in it. So I've actually already got this question pulled up. So hello, hey there. I would like to work on conversion in our Shopify store. And one of the things I'm about to try is a retargeting campaign. Okay, cool. So just FYI, we'll have a whole retargeting module coming up too. So some important information. Most of our sales come from Amazon. On Shopify, we have 30 add to carts per month, 1/4 end with sales. It's not a big number, however, still it will be nice to increase the conversion rate. I have some doubts because it's my first retargeting campaign. So again, we're gonna have a module about this, but happy to answer it. Please find attached a couple of screenshots in my questions below. All right, is the custom audience, objective, budget, timing, and URL okay? Is one ad enough? It's a small campaign, so I'm not sure whether it makes sense to test more ads. So when it comes to retargeting, it's not necessarily about testing a bunch of different ads, but I would shoot for 2 to 3 ad variations. And we'll talk more about this in the copy and creative modules, but I would add 1 or 2 other ads, just maybe speaking to other objections, or at least using different creatives just to keep things fresh and to give Facebook some more assets to work with. So let me check out. So you've got people who added to cart in the last 30 days or viewed content but did not purchase in the last 30 days. Okay. And you're going for conversions and you're using the purchase objective. So first off, I definitely would not use the conversion objective here. So I can't see the potential audience size, but based off of what you described up here, it's way too small. So remember, please go back to module 3 where we discussed objectives and we talked about which ones are best for retargeting. And if you have less than 5,000 people in your custom audience, it's probably not going to work very well with the conversion objective. It's just not going to give Facebook enough data for them to be able to optimize. So I definitely would not use the conversion objective. I would try something, again, I can't see the audience size. I would try catalog sales possibly, or reach. It looks like you're doing a your cart is waiting, use this code at checkout. So you could either use, you could also use the messenger objective here, just like Ezra does with Boom. But I honestly think with the size audiences that you are working with right now from a retargeting perspective, I honestly think this is way too segmented of a campaign for you to be running from a retargeting standpoint. With this much website volume, you want to be thinking much broader from a retargeting standpoint, because you want to make your audience sizes larger. So for retargeting right now, you might have a really simple strategy that might just be you're retargeting everybody who visited your website in the last 6 months but didn't buy, also your email list. Like if you look at the bonus training in module 2, where I go through our TMTP launch, you see that because our website numbers are pretty small there, because our retargeting audiences are pretty small, I'm pretty much lumping as many warm audiences as possible together to get a larger audience size versus doing super segmented retargeting like you see here that Boom is able to do because they have such large audience sizes. So not that this isn't cool marketing and something you could be doing, but the biggest issue is this audience size is probably excuse me, probably going to be so small that Facebook's not going to be able to give you any reach, period, no matter what objective you're using. But if you're gung-ho about this and you just really want to try it, the objectives that I think would work best are messages and or reach. So great questions here. I think I covered everything. Thanks for the detail. Hopefully that was helpful for you. All right, I'm going to move on to the next question and just make sure. Okay, it doesn't look like we're having any audio issues. All right, so next up is Zach. Hey, Zach, I like your beard. Hi, Molly, quick question about targeting. If I have an interest like weight loss, which is huge, about 30 million, should I find ways to chunk it down? So I wouldn't use that, Zach, unless you're building campaigns for scale. So like you saw, for example, in the targeting module last week where I was showing the keto campaigns that I built, those campaigns, I'm pretty sure I mentioned, and you could tell from the campaign structure, those campaigns were built for scale. So that's the reason I could use interests like weight loss or some of the other ones, just like keto that you saw. If you're just testing and you're using budget at the ad set level, I would try to find some more specific interests, like all of the ones that I showed you. You could use just, most of the ones that I showed in that keto example. There were tons of different weight loss ones that were a lot smaller. So you could use big ones like that when you get to scale and you're looking for larger audience sizes. But yeah, definitely not right off the bat if you're testing. So hopefully that is helpful. Great question. And feel free to just use, you probably for at least your first year or two won't need many more interests than the ones that I showed you in those keto campaigns, honestly. I've been using those for years, so hopefully that's helpful. I know a lot of you guys who are in the market of the examples that we're showing are just in heaven, so feel free to use those. We wouldn't show you if we didn't want you to. So. All right, next up is Michael. Hey, Michael. This is a question for tomorrow's Q&A. We have recently finished several changes to our butter chicken product page after Ezra's session and wanted to get comments on anything we could do to improve. Okay, awesome. So, Michael, I'm actually going to give this one to Ez because he will be able to give you better feedback on that one. So, I'm going to move on to men's shirts. Okay, Paul, I stink at finding an audience for men's Ben Sherman shirts. We have an upcoming sale, and I'm trying to do some Facebook ads to sign up for the event. In 4 days, we only got 169 contacts. I have no clue if my audience is wrong. Okay, so first off, something to keep in mind, Paul, and I'm not sure if you watched the training, is that you are definitely a product-centric business. So you are probably struggling. Yeah, you're struggling because you're looking at this like a market-centric business. This is not a market-centric business of just like shirts. Like that's not the way you're going to market, because all men wear shirts, and that doesn't allow you to get specific enough in your targeting and therefore your copy and creative to actually reach a specific person and grab their attention in the newsfeed. So the mistake here is exactly what I told you guys that I was making with Panda Planner. First, I was like, okay, these are notebooks, so I'm going to target a bunch of different notebook companies and people that like fancy pens. And it's like, no, that's not the way this is going to work. So Paul, same thing's going on with you here. You first need to create avatars because you're a market-centric business, and then create your targeting off of that. Your targeting shouldn't actually really be around like dress shirts and men's clothing. Everybody and their mom is targeting these. You might have one avatar that is like dress shirt enthusiasts, right? And maybe that's when you would go after some other brands that are also producing nice shirts and things like that. But I need you to go back to the targeting module, and specifically the bow tie example. My past student Alex, who had the bow tie store, and look at the avatars we created. Not that you will have the same exact ones, but that's first the exercise, and then you'll be able to create some better targeting. So that's exactly the issue there, Paul, is that this is not a market-centric business, and you're treating it like a market-centric business. So we need to create some avatars there so that you can get very specific with the targeting. So hopefully that's helpful, buddy. And any of these with a star, John said those have a video, so I'm going to be coming back to those so I can consume those, since you guys can't hear the audio of the video. Okay, so Teresa, hi dear. She said, I procrastinated this week. No worries. I think we've all had a crazy last 7 to 10 days. Actually, I have so much on my plate, but this is okay. I did last week's training. Wow, thank you, Molly. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I've done the avatars before, but I had done one campaign with an avatar for each ad set as opposed to the campaign being the avatar and then really diving deep. So Molly, you asked us to show you your work. Here it is. I love it. To make it easier, here is my list of interests. My only concern is the one that is Broadway when I have another that is all musicals. By the way, I own a jewelry store with primarily handmade jewelry, artsy in style, so I created the avatar of Artsy Annie based on what my artsy friends may enjoy. I love that. So this is an example of Teresa, instead of treating this like a market-centric business and saying, I'm just going to target other jewelry, people making jewelry, because that's super competitive and that's not really how Facebook targeting works. She says, okay, I'm going to create an avatar of this artsy human and enter the conversation that they're having, meet them where they are, and those are the interests that I'm going to target. So awesome, Teresa. Let's look through this. And I can already tell that you're nailing this. I think the Louvre might be a little bit too big. Like if you use the but no one else would trick that we taught, there are a lot of people that have gone to or like the Louvre just because it's a super famous gallery that might not truly be artsy. Like I'm thinking about my dad, who doesn't necessarily care about art, sadly, but has been to the Louvre because, that's what you do when you visit Paris. So you're definitely hitting the nail on the head with these. I would just take ones out like that might not fit that, but no one else would trick. Otherwise, you're absolutely nailing these. We've got art festivals, different art galleries, materials. I think that's a whole rabbit hole that you could go down there with art materials and people that make art materials. Also different types of art, like oil painting is probably, a targeting option. Like the whole, even just going down that rabbit hole of different types of art and who makes the tools and what brands are producing the products that people use to create art. That's a whole rabbit hole in itself. I really love it. So you said, my only concern is the one that is Broadway when I have another that is all of the musicals. So I think that's totally fine, Therese, especially since you're just testing this type of targeting for the first time. It is good for us to test some different stuff. I do think these are too broad though, like Cats, Hamilton, Moulin Rouge. All of these are too broad, so I would remove these. If you're gonna go down that rabbit hole, then I think you got to get way more specific because these fall into the Louvre category, right? So please give me your thoughts, suggestions. And by the way, I'm holding this aside and we'll do ads and everything to follow. I just put placeholder ads in the training. Do you know how hard it is not to implement? I know, but I love you and appreciate you for your patience, because if you guys take this week by week and actually put the time into it, you're going to learn how to build an awesome campaign and not just launch stuff that's not going to work. So I love this, 4.2 million people. Yeah, this all looks great. The biggest thing, Teresa, is just going to be removing those that are a bit too broad. And I would definitely go down some of those rabbit holes that I mentioned in terms of art supplies and maybe even art schools. Like that would be really cool to test. Like you saw in ODG apparel, when we were wanting to reach pastors, we were targeting different seminaries and different schools that they might have gone to. So that's definitely something to think about. I think there are so many rabbit holes that you can go down there, and thank you so much for submitting those. Have y'all ever seen this error message when trying to use the same post ID? This post can't be used on Instagram. Yeah, the only time I've seen this is if the creative is more than, I think it's 90 seconds to 120 seconds. I can't remember exactly which one, but if you're using a video creative and it's too long, and or if the text is too long for Instagram. So that's why over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to talk to you guys about building ads that work across as many placements as possible and meeting that criteria so that we don't come up against stuff like this. So sorry you're dealing with that, Johnny. It's not the end of the world. It just means that you're not going to be able to aggregate as much social proof as you would if they were able to, if they met the criteria for Facebook and Instagram. So great question there. Moving on. Okay, Michael Sampson. Hey, buddy. He says, hey, Molly, how carefully do you monitor quality ranking on your ads? So this is something I'm going to talk to you guys a lot about in the troubleshooting and optimization module. But he's basically talking about the diagnostics that are at the ad level. I touched on them a little bit in module 3, but the quality ranking, the conversion rate ranking, and the engagement ranking, which are the 3 different, I guess you would call them metrics, that Facebook reports back to us at the ad level to tell us, in comparison to the other advertisers who are also targeting the same audiences, are you in the below average category? Are you in the average category? Are you in the above average category? And this matters because it can tell us, it can give us good direction when we're wanting to optimize and troubleshoot on, okay, our campaign isn't hitting our success metric, but why? Right? And this is giving us a lot more insight than, for example, the relevance score, which was a score out of 10. It was like, okay, we have an 8, but we don't really know what's broken about the campaign. So just to give you guys a little bit more insight for someone who might not know what that means. So how carefully do I monitor the quality ranking? So really quick, Michael, I only use the quality rankings as a means to troubleshoot and figure out why something isn't working. So you should not be making decisions based off of scaling or turning off your campaign just because your quality rankings are bad. You always want to make sure you're making those decisions based off of the success metric of that campaign, whether it's return on ad spend, CPA, cost per lead, whatever that is for you at that step in the traffic system. That is the number that you want to be monitoring to make those decisions. These rankings are secondary metrics, we call them, that should inform ways to improve the campaign or give you more information about why it's not working. So just a little bit of insight. You said I had duplicate ads running in tandem within the same ad set. One ad will have above quality ranking while the other will be below average quality ranking. So that's just because people might be marking one as spam, like someone just saw it in the newsfeed and marked it as spam, but that just didn't happen to the other ad. So that ad had a quality ranking in the bottom 35, was converting higher, but it ended up getting rejected. I was able to get it turned back on. However, I'm not sure how impactful it is. So it's not impactful. It's just a means to use for troubleshooting. In my specific situation, for the other two quality metrics, all my ads were above. I know that in the video you mentioned it's important to have at least 2 out of the 3, so that's why. So I'm saying that usually when I have a campaign that's succeeding, the ads, 2 out of the 3 are doing pretty well, but that's not always the case. Sometimes all of them are below average, but my return on ad spend looks exactly what I would like it to, and so I keep running. So I wouldn't get too caught up on that, as I don't think we can ever do much to improve the conversion rate. Exactly. And some other advertisers are optimizing for the same conversion, but it's a much cheaper product, and so therefore it's happening already. And don't worry, this wasn't necessarily answered in my training video. It will come to light more in the optimization and troubleshooting module. But yeah, you should definitely be using those diagnostics more for troubleshooting and more to tell you what you can do to improve the campaign versus worrying about how it's affecting your account or anything like that. So that's why those are there. And great question, Michael. Thank you for asking. Okay, Antonio, hey buddy, hello, need help please. I have a campaign for one of my products that's working pretty well, awesome. All the KPIs are green, but the conversion on my site is not great. I'm profitable, but in terms of number of visitors, it's low. It's half as many sales as visitors. Example, 600 visitors, 300 euros, 750 visitors, 400 euros. I'm already using Zipify and have looked at the bonuses for improved product sheets. Do you know what I can do to improve my conversions? Post the campaign here for us to take a look at. We can offer some tips. What kind of information? Yeah, can you share the pages? So Antonio, if you can share the pages, then we can definitely get Ez to give you some feedback. I just saw him popping up and doing that for a few other people. It is natural to see as Facebook starts to, if you give Facebook good targeting, good copy, good creative, and you select an objective that makes sense for them, they are going to go first after the people that are the most low-hanging fruit, that are most likely to take that action. And as the campaign starts to scale, it is only natural for Facebook to have to go out to colder audiences. And that's why we usually always see a fatigue in cold traffic campaigns. That's just natural. That's how ads work. And so this is an example of that, it's not always going to be the case that you drive 600 visitors and make 300 euros, right? When you're driving 600,000 visitors, it doesn't mean that we're just going to be able to times this by 100 and those are the results we're going to be able to get. Unfortunately, that's not how this works. So just to set a little bit of perspective there, it doesn't mean that there aren't other things we can do to get that type of scalability, but not just from that one campaign that you're running. So definitely post the page for us, and we'll give you a critique on how to improve the conversion rate if you feel like that is the weak point in your ads. Alrighty, moving on. So Jamie, what's up, buddy? Got some questions from this week's module. Sounds good. How would you approach lookalikes with one audience, i.e. golf, when it comes to lookalikes? Would you be layering these with golf, for example, or would you be leaving them open? So no, I really don't hardly ever layer lookalikes with interests. So I would just reference Boom's targeting that I showed you guys in last week's training. And if you want to use lookalikes, just put them into their own ad set like we showed with Boom, and stack a few lookalikes together to create a super lookalike. So instead of layering it with golf, just throw 1% of your website visitors, 1% of your buyers, 1% of your email list if you have that, 1% of your Facebook and Instagram engagers, and layer those together. So we're throwing all of the 1% into an ad set. So definitely go check out where I show Boom, because I went into those ad sets and explained that inside of that module. Are you keeping lookalikes in their own campaign, or do you have no issue with putting them into a CBO with interest based? Yeah, totally. You saw inside of Boom where, you know, whether we're in testing mode or whether we're in scale mode, the lookalikes are just always their own ad set. There's really no need to put them in their own campaign as long as you're keeping that ad set around the same audience size as your interest-based ad sets. So, you know, whether you're scaling or whether you're testing, just treat that lookalike audience or lookalike ad set kind of like it's another interest ad set. And we try to stick with, you know, 1 to 3% lookalikes when at all possible, because those are the most accurate and closest to the data source. So you said audience insights, I always find a tricky one because so many of the interests in there are not available for targeting. Why does Facebook do that? So a reason for that is Facebook isn't guaranteeing that everything that shows up in audience insights is going to be an interest inside of Facebook. A lot of people use that just for general marketing research in general. I use general a lot. And there are reasons that Facebook has removed certain interests that they don't always disclose. So that's why I said in the training that I always expect about a 50% match rate. Is there another way to get these interests that Facebook shows you? No, there's no other way. And finally, how are you treating overlap with CBO? So overlap isn't something that I really care about, especially with CBO. And the reason for that is because of the advanced machine learning that we have the opportunity to use on this platform nowadays. And because the optimization is happening at the campaign level, Facebook is looking at all of those ad sets and saying, which ones should we give the most reach to that are getting us the highest volume of results for the lowest cost? So they're able to look at that overlap and almost use it to their advantage. And that's not something that's not to say that you should try to have, you know, that's why you never see me just use the same interest in multiple ad sets. I definitely don't recommend doing that, because if you're doing that, you're just not giving Facebook enough people to work with in the first place. But audience overlap isn't something I worry about as much anymore. And Jamie, I mean, this is the reason, like even back in module 3, when I was showing you guys how we used to structure campaigns, and that, you know, sometimes we used to have 50 campaigns built for, you know, one campaign that we would build today. The reason that we had to have that complexity in campaign structure was to overcome the fact that Facebook wasn't able to understand that this overlap was present, and therefore we were competing against ourselves. So nowadays we're lucky to advertise on the platform where that's not the case, and it's really something that I don't worry about as much anymore. But hopefully I answered this. I hardly ever overlay lookalikes with interests. I would just put those interests in their own ad sets, and I usually just have 1, maybe 2 ad sets in each of my campaigns that are utilizing lookalike audiences if I'm finding that they're working in that account. And you know, that's about it. So great questions. Thank you for asking. All right, strange issue. I love John's comments on these. All right. So, Saman, would anyone be able to help, please, as to why I would get this message as I'm trying to use the boost function for my posted video on my business page? I've never had this message before. An agency was managing some advertising, but I've now removed them from admin advertiser. I can't even click on use existing ad set in Ads Manager. Insufficient permission to use video and ad creative, unable to use video and ad creative. Please ensure you have the advertising rights on the page. Okay, so it sounds like it's nothing to do with the actual ads or anything in Ads Manager. It sounds like it has to do with your permissions, Saman. So you need to make sure that you have, you know, admin or advertiser permissions on this particular account. And you also need to make sure that you are an admin on this page, because it could be likely that you're not an admin on this page, and that's why you don't have the permissions. And I know Facebook is like kind of makes it a pain in the butt too with all of these permissions, and it's something I struggle with a lot with clients too. But anytime I see something like this, it's because I, as the person setting up the ads, don't have the proper permission inside of the ad account and or the page. So I would go check those inside of the business manager settings and make sure you're an admin on the page. And if that doesn't fix it, let us know. All right, so this next one's a video. It starred, so we will come back to this. And up next, we have Andrew. Hey, everyone. Love reading all the questions and seeing the answers. Likewise, very helpful. I had a question about awareness campaigns. Are they worth running? Why not just run prospecting instead? Not sure what you mean by prospecting. I know with brand lift and building a brand are important, but is the money worth it? I wanted to see if anyone had good ideas on retention campaigns. So Andrew, I'm not sure if you watched module 3, but I had a whole section on objectives and I went through every objective and whether I used them or not. And I explained that awareness was something that I rarely ever used. I've only used it a few times actually. So it's really never worth it unless you're working with a big brand like Nike, like Fortune 100 companies. And if you're wanting to do retention campaigns at the bottom of the funnel, it kind of depends on the audience sizes. I'm going to get into that in the retargeting module, but great objectives to use at the bottom of the funnel when you have small audience sizes are objectives like reach or catalog sales or messages or traffic is even an objective that I'll use at the bottom of the funnel. But definitely go back to module 3 and download that objectives worksheet and go through that part of the training because I went pretty deep into when I use them and when I don't and why. But brand awareness definitely isn't something that I recommend any of you guys use unless you're just working with a huge client and their only success metric is brand lift. All right, Chris says, hey Molly, I believe that one of my campaigns is ready to scale. Woo! I've watched the training on campaign structure a few times now, and I just want to make sure I'm doing this right. And the images attached, it's the top of funnel conversions, 5 to 10% lookalike, using 2 to 5% lookalike, and as a CBO campaign. So I definitely recommend going through last Thursday's training, Chris, and make sure that you dive deep into interest targeting before you go to scale, or you just won't be able to reach enough people. I mean, you could reach people, but you'll be missing out on so much scale because you're only using lookalikes. So is the move to duplicate this campaign, increase in audience sizes? Okay, so it looks like you have, so first off, anytime you have a test campaign, guys, that's working, like these are wonderful return on ad spend, you don't want to just move to CBO just to move to CBO, right? You want to start scaling this campaign as it is, at least until you feel that you have new audiences, for example, that you could use in a brand new CBO campaign. So here's what I would do if I were you, Chris. I would continue increasing the budget on these current campaigns about 50% once a week, and I would continue to scale them in that way until they fatigue to a return on ad spend you are not comfortable with. What I would also do in the meantime is create some CBO campaigns that aren't targeting any lookalike audiences, but only targeting different groups of interest based off of the specs and everything that I taught you guys on last Thursday's training. Very similar to Boom's campaign that I showed you on last Thursday's training. And inside of that new CBO campaign, I would use the ads from this campaign, the same post IDs, and then probably add 2 to 3 other brand new fresh ads, copy and creative wise. And that way you can have this running at the same time, scaling this, and also launching a new CBO campaign that's targeting interests and people that are similar but different from who you're already targeting in these campaigns. And that is where ultimate scale comes from, guys, having multiple campaigns that are doing the hard work for you. So Chris, thank you for submitting this information. And yeah, that's why this is fun, this mentorship, because I can tell you exactly what I would do. And I also think that I know for sure you've got a good amount of social proof here, but the next few weeks on copy and creative, you're going to be able to go get way better from a copy and creative standpoint here. And maybe the next 2 weeks will give you some good ideas for those new CBO campaigns if you want to wait on launching those, but no pressure there. So Chris, that's what I would do. Thank you for submitting that. It looks like we got another video, so that one is started to come back to. All right. I'm gonna take a quick sip of water. Hope you guys are having fun. All right. Teresa, hi dear. She said, I hope you all are doing well. I'm doing some analytics and trying to figure out how to get my Facebook ad spend to be about 35% of my costs. My assumption is that okay, so this is actually one that we are going to give to John. He's at the doctor. So that is best answered by John. Okay. Okay, this one was next. You guys, Ezra in Slack is Big Ashy because that was his nickname growing up. But for a few years, I thought it was Big Ashley. And I just learned why it was Big Ashy last week. So, okay, so good morning. I launched a campaign 3 days ago, but I have this symbol on 3 of my editions which appeared. So learning limited, can this affect my results? So no, it's just telling you, well, is there anything I need to change? No, there's not. The campaign is conversion objective for a physical product on large audiences. My return on ad spend is 306, 26 days and 26 sales in 3 days. No, all of this is looking amazing. All it's telling you with learning limited is that you could benefit by increasing the budget because if they had more data, this could be more scalable. That's the way to think about that learning limited. That's not something that pops up that you should necessarily freak out about. It's just telling you, hey, we don't have as much data as we would necessarily like, but if you're still getting amazing results like you see here, you're totally fine staying at the budgets that you're at. But if you do have more budget to spend, I would start to increase those budgets because by giving Facebook more data, you'll be able to scale this in a much nicer way. So don't be scared of that learning limited sign, but it is an indication if your success metrics are good and if you are getting the results that you want, that you can benefit from a bump in budget. So alrighty, great question. And up next, Antonio, hello. I ran a campaign in conversion and since 3 days and ad set is a return on ad spend 6+, and I would like to know what to do with this ad set. To leave it like that without touching or duplicating it and change something because I think it's a winning ad set and I don't want to burn it by touching it. Awesome. I love that you are getting that return on ad spend. It sounds like you've got budget at the ad set level. If so, I would still let this run about 7 days, so 4 more days than it has here. I know that time's probably passed, but from there, I would start to increase the budget 50% every 7 days. That's a nice slow burn so that this campaign doesn't fatigue out too quickly. And I would also be thinking about what other audiences and specifically interests that are most like the ones that are working in this ad set, how can I go find these based off of last Thursday's training? And how can I basically create a CBO campaign with 3 to 5 ad sets, grouping these interests that I find using the post IDs of the ads that are working in these particular ad sets and maybe some fresh ads so that I can get ultimate scale. So that's what I would be thinking about here, Antonio, and congrats on that successful campaign. That's exciting. All righty, so next up. All right, excuse me. Sophie, hi Molly, hope you are good. Hope you are too. I'm a complete beginner, no worries. I have a natural and organic skincare business. On the Q&A, you mentioned that for an e-commerce brand just starting out with no ads, not to do the pre-sale, but instead run to the product page. I wondered why you suggest not to do the pre-sale article up front. At what stage do you suggest moving to pre-sale article? We started your 7-day mini course, but only got to the avatars. So should we complete the first before starting with the TMTP and butter chicken? So Sophie, watch Thursday's training for the avatar stuff. That usually comes after you figured out your offer. So you want to use a pre-sale article, number one, when you're ready for scale. So Boom was ready for scale. They had scaled past being able, they had acquired all of the women over 50 who were interested enough in their skincare to actually go direct to the product page and buy. So as Boom, probably after about 20, $30 million in spend, after they realized, okay, we need to scale to a part of this market who probably needs some engagement first or entertainment or a little bit of value. And that's when they moved to the pre-sale article. Another reason that you would use a pre-sale article is if you have an expensive product. So usually any product over about $300, it's a physical product, probably needs a pre-sale article because it's just such an expensive item to ask someone to go direct to product page and buy. And along those same lines, anytime you're selling something that might be a novel idea or something people haven't heard of before, a pre-sale article can help a ton when it comes to educating them and really getting them ready to buy. So number one is when you're ready for scale. Number two is if you have a physical product over about $300. And or number three, I would use a pre-sale article when you're selling something, specifically a physical product that is kind of hard to understand or is a novel idea and needs to be explained. And that is a reason that Boom went with the pre-sale article also, because those makeup sticks, right? It's not like they're selling lip gloss. The makeup sticks are something, they're a product that most women have never seen before, right? It's not like they're buying a better mascara to replace what is already in their makeup bag. They're buying a type of product that they've never even purchased before, these makeup sticks, right? Like, what are they for? How do we use them? All of that needs to be overcome before we actually get them to buy the product. So that need for education for the Boom Trio sticks, which is the front end offer that the pre-sale article promotes, that was another reason that pre-sale is really where 95% of Boom's cold traffic still goes to today. So yeah, Sophie, great question, and hopefully that makes sense. Also, Joe, if you could help note in Slack here to add to last Thursday's avatar and targeting module, to tell John, let's add the new video that I shot for Team Traffic of me doing an updated interest targeting deep dive for Boom, because I want you guys to see my research behind that, and it's just something that came to mind. So let's add that as a bonus inside of module 4 as soon as we can. Let's let John know that, and you guys will get that inside of Team Traffic, but I want you to see it a little sooner too. So hopefully that clears that up for you, Sophie, and thank you for asking that. Alrighty, so next up is Michael Sampson. Hey buddy, we set up a campaign 2 days ago targeting Instagram stories only with a carousel ad. We're targeting a 2.2 million audience, which is the same interest as the 10 million audience. However, the CPM is crazy high, which is making the CPC abnormally high. For example, the butter chicken ads that target auto placements have a $21 CPM. This has 114. Is it normal to expect such a high CPM? As a reminder, it seemed like this was a cheap traffic. Okay, Michael, so it really depends on if your market has yet to be saturated with people that are just trying to do Instagram story ads. If that is the case, that is the risk of trying something like this, because it's such a segmented placement. You could see really high CPMs because other advertisers are trying to do the same thing versus just allowing Facebook to do auto placements and finding the placements that are cheapest for you. So it sounds like, at least for the targeting that you're using right now, that this method of segmenting off Instagram stories into their own placement probably isn't going to be the best, and you want to stick with all placements. And this is something that we'll talk about in the coming weeks, but I find this in some markets, especially markets where maybe that avatar specifically spends a lot of time on Instagram stories. So yeah, great question, and it's something that I've seen across the board, especially for Boom and what Ezra was chatting about. Instagram stories are really cheap because a lot of the advertisers targeting that market over the age of 50 are pretty much only showing ads on Facebook, which is a huge mistake and a huge missed opportunity. So yeah, I guess the best feedback I can give you is it depends on what your competitors and the other people who are targeting your same audience, what they are doing. So really, really great question, buddy. And on to the next. I feel like we are on a roll here, guys. This is fun. Okay. Alrighty, so let's rock and roll here. Okay, so this is something that, these are follow-up questions, so I'm gonna leave this one open and come back to these when I come back to the videos, because I need to reread the initial stuff for clarity. And sorry for the delay there, Trudy. Thank you for your patience. So, okay, hi all. I hope everyone is doing great and getting a lot out of this course. I know I am. That is awesome. I work for an early stage startup called Alpine Storage that produces high-end bicycles. We've recently launched the new website using Shopify Zipify pages and have just built out our target, I struggle at reading sometimes. Okay, we have just built out the long form product page to drive our test campaign traffic. Our target market is both cyclists and want the storage capsule for their homes, as well as a commercial property owner that can use for tenant amenities and or monetization extra space by offering daily bicycle storage services. Very cool. For our test, we're going to focus on the residential capsule and target avid cyclists and biking commuters. So I wanted to see if I could get some feedback on the page, of course. Also wanted to get recommendations on the best conversion goal for our test. We will be using the butter chicken formula and should have an audience size of 5 million. So David, be sure that based off of last Thursday's training, make sure you go through that to ensure that you're doing the targeting stuff correct. I do think you should start with conversion purchases, but actually let me see what you got going on here. I want to see the price point because I'm not sure how easy of a sale this is. So first off, something that I'm noticing is a really long load time here, which Facebook definitely isn't going to like. There's a lot of text here, so there's way too much text going on. In terms of people that are just scanners and they like to scan, they're gonna miss all of this. So this needs to be broken up in a different way. This is also a really large price point. So for this price point, this is something that's going to need a little bit more of a pre-sale article sales page than just a direct product page. And I think what you're going to need is a pre-sale article for both of your avatars. So one could be, multiple ways you can make money, by, adding this bike storage to your extra space. It would need to be more condensed than that. You could quickly give them the information, a few bullet points up here on the top, and then start to sell them, go into more of this product page look. And then the other one would, of course, be to more of the bike rider. And maybe it's about ways to store and protect their bike so that it stays in its best condition. So this is an example, just like I talked about, I think with Olivia a few minutes ago, because this price point is so high, we do need more of a pre-sale page here at the top. And I do think you're going to have one specific to each avatar because they're just different experiences, right? They're completely different pain points and specific end benefits that these people are looking for. And in that scenario, it's really tough to get away with just going here. I mean, I think you could maybe run a test to this. I'm not saying you have to wait until you build the other two out, but I think you're going to get a lot better results. So as this stands, we need to break up this text in a big way. Most people aren't going to read this. We're talking a lot to features here versus specific end benefits. So definitely show up to the ad copy module next week because that's going to be about even more than ad copy. That's just about writing copy in general and how to really appeal to your avatars. And I think honestly, all of this could use a lot of work just from a general marketing standpoint. I like these native looking images. I like the testimonials here. I think this video is fine. I would try to host it on the page versus having them click out to YouTube because they might be distracted. I think this is an area where it's okay to get more into the features versus the benefits. I like that you have social proof here and then, or authority pieces, love that, FAQs. So this part doesn't need to be changed. What needs to be focused most on is this area, this area. A lot of it's going to be what we talk about next week and actually speaking to the end benefits of both of these avatars. Because right now, I mean, you know, the capsules are installed and look great. It feels really special that we are now owning something really, it feels really good that we are now owning something special. I don't mean to be super critical, but that is just so airy-fairy. It's so out there. I don't know the specific end benefit. Someone's not spending $1,300 to have a capsule. Like, I didn't wake up this morning thinking I need a $1,300 capsule installed outside my house that looks great, feels good, and now we own something really special. Like, y'all, we got to get so much deeper into the psyche of these people and why they're actually making these buying decisions. And that's mostly reflected in the copy. So these first two sections here are what needs the most work. And I do think a pre-sale article or two pre-sale articles, David, are going to end up being important for you because this is such a high priced item. But thank you for being vulnerable, putting that out there. I hope that that's helpful to you. And I'm excited. I definitely think we can get this to work from a Facebook ad perspective. We just got to get a little bit deeper and more specific. All right, y'all, we are rocking and rolling on to the next one. I'm gonna take a quick sip of water here. Okay, so Chris says our budget is $600 a month. Recently launched an e-commerce store and not much data. We expect to buy customers in $25 since the budget is not enough to optimize for purchases, and we do not enough organic sales or add to carts to reach the weekly required conversions. Should we use the traffic objective? Since Molly said that she almost never uses traffic for e-commerce, I'm not really sure. More info. This would be for top of funnel testing, cold audiences, sending traffic to a pre-sale page. Okay, so the question, Chris, is let's say you guys were able to optimize for conversions and purchases and you had a positive return on ad spend. Would you be able to increase this budget from $600 a month? I would hope that you guys would in some way, you know, because that's how you would scale this business. So the way I would be looking at this right now is not just how do I use $600 a month to the best of my ability. I would actually use $600 to run a week or two long test campaign. And I would use the purchase objective because I think that's going to allow you to get the best results. And I would treat that test campaign as a way to get data and to prove why you need a larger monthly budget so that you can scale. And I think that anybody with a smaller monthly budget like this, that is the best way to think about this, because otherwise, especially with e-commerce, unless you're just using you know, Facebook for retargeting, which is totally fine. Like, hey, if you spend $600 a month and make back $5,000 from retargeting every month, and that's your jam, and that's all that business wants to do, go for it. Like, that's amazing. I'm not hating on that. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're using it for cold acquisition, $600 a month, that's going to be tough to be able to give Facebook enough budget to actually know how to go out there and find those cold audiences. So if you are in the latter camp that I just described, I would look at that $600 as more of a 1 to 2 week test budget that you can use to get proof of concept to test, and so that you can then make a claim for more budget and scale from there. So long story short, starting out, I would still use the conversion and purchase objective because I think it's going to get you the best results. I just think you're going to need to be willing to spend this in a much shorter amount of time. So really, really good question. And I love just these specific situations you guys are in. It's fun to be able to meet you there and tell you what I would do. Okay, so this post has been removed. All right. Moving on to the next one that is not a video here. Hey guys, hopefully a pretty simple question. What would be the benefit of setting up new ads when testing with copy variations rather than having one ad and putting a few different variations when you're at the ad set level? So I'm going to talk about how to split test ads and ad copy a ton in the next 2 weeks, since that's what the trainings are about. But let me try to understand this. What would be the benefit of setting up new ads when testing with copy variations rather than having one ad and putting a few different variations? So what would be the benefit of setting up new ads when testing with copy variations? So I mean, every time I test, I'm testing multiple copy variations rather than having one ad and putting a few different variations when you're, yeah, Jamie, I'm not quite sure that I understand this. I'm sorry it took a bit to get to this one, but I'm not quite sure I understand. But you know, anytime, unless I'm retargeting and I know that I'm not going to be doing a lot of testing, I just need to show up. You know, other than, of course, creative, the main thing that I'm testing is copies. So I'm always testing multiple copy variations, and it's not just about testing. I mean, y'all heard me last Tuesday go on a big rant about testing and why this whole marketing industry is kind of just, you know, that we're all about testing, and we don't understand that those multiple copy variations aren't there just to test. They're also there to give Facebook multiple copy variations to use so that they can be interesting to more people in the market, right? Because one person might respond to an ad copy variation that's more logical, while another might respond to one that's more emotional. And even though inside of Ads Manager, it looks like the one that's more emotional is converting better, we would have missed out on all of that horizontal scale and new customers, leads, whatever we're going after, if we didn't have that logic-based copy variation. So Jamie, I think I need some clarification on exactly what you're saying here. I don't quite understand, but hopefully that little riff there was helpful. All right, Luke is up next. Hey, buddy. He says, I have a client who sells a natural testosterone supplement. Obviously, this is even more risky and borderline than cryo, yeah, in terms of benefits. How can I go about promoting this on Facebook without getting shut down? The supplement actually works and has been proven to work with testosterone tests. It's not FDA approved. The first campaigns I started with was simply an organic looking video teaching about 5 foods that men need to increase their testosterone. From there, the second layer of the campaign was retargeting those video viewers with a carousel ad. I used tea instead of testosterone. Be very careful doing stuff like this. Facebook will catch you and lock you down. And took out everything to do with libido and sexual performance. It got immediately flagged. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Is it pointless to try to promote stuff like this on Facebook? Should I just drive? Yeah, I would use Facebook as a way to drive like stuff like this, 5 foods that men can eat to increase their testosterone. I don't know if Facebook will accept this, but they will accept stuff that's more on the border like this. And I would be using Facebook absolutely when you're selling. It's not that they don't like supplements. I've worked with plenty of supplement brands that do just fine on the platform. It's just something like testosterone relates, you know, it's very personal to a lot of men, and it relates to you know, Facebook never wants consumers to think that they are giving advertisers information like this guy has low testosterone, right? So it's not that the supplement is the issue, it is the nature of this. And you definitely should be using Facebook as a way to drive ads to pre-sale articles like that, and even content, so that you can pixel people, retarget them on other platforms, use email marketing and things like that. So yeah, I'm sorry, there's just not a lot you can do, you know, with stuff that's super sensitive like this. Is driving traffic to a Facebook group and then selling from there? That's not really something I would do either, unless the Facebook group is like, you know, just about being like a healthy male, you know. But it's an asset that you don't own, and I think the pre-sale articles will be a lot more beneficial because that's not something that Facebook can, you know, take away or decide to do away with like Facebook groups. So sorry you're struggling with that, Luke. I totally get it, but anything that's just sensitive like that, it can be really tough. Okay, does ad set overlap matter? So we talked about this a lot earlier in the call. Do you pay close attention to your ad set auction overlap? If so, which percentage? So guys, this is something to go back earlier in this Q&A call. I talked a lot about this, so we already answered that one. It's definitely not something I worry about as much anymore, especially when using CBO because of the advanced machine learning and the way that Facebook is optimizing, and because you're using larger ad sets. Okay, when running test campaigns. All right, rockin' and rollin'. Hey, Molly. Hey, Carl. When running a test campaign with ABO, is it okay to add ad sets to the avatar-based campaign once the campaign is already running, assuming that the new ad set fits the avatar? I'm just going to go ahead and answer that, Carl. It sure is. If you're in a CBO campaign, it's not. That's when you would want to build those campaigns in their own ad set. But if you've got budget at the ad set level, absolutely totally fine, because the optimization is not happening at that level. Therefore, bad or optimization wouldn't be thrown off as it would with CBO. Okay, so next up is Merly. Hi, dear. So she said, would you use $150 budget or more when testing more than 2 ads per ad set? Because sometimes Facebook won't allocate an equal amount per ad set. So Facebook's never going to allocate an equal amount. It's because it's machine learning, and their goal is to look at the data and the ads that people are responding to and that are getting the best results based off what you told Facebook you wanted, and to generate more of that. So that's the way the platform works, and we don't need to be looking at it always from like I didn't get a proper test, because that's not how the platform works. So yeah, $150 a budget is plenty for something like this. What would you do if you see Facebook giving the budget to an ad that is not performing and it's ignoring the other ads? So usually when you see that, I guarantee you it's super early in the campaign. This is why I try not to make decisions on campaigns, after I've run them for 5 to 7 days, which we'll talk a lot about in Module 7, because you'll start to see Facebook's essentially testing. When you're seeing Facebook give an ad or a placement and continue to give it a lot of reach, even though it's not working, it usually means that you're probably very early in the campaign, because very rarely would they continue to do that because you're not getting the results that you want. So they know you'll turn it off and they know you won't spend money. So I would go to guess that if this happened, it was really early in the campaign. If it's been longer than 5 to 7 days, then it might need to be a situation where you do duplicate the campaign and start over. But I would guarantee it's just too early here. In case I turned off an ad for the reason, would I have to wait another 2 to 3 days for the results? So yeah, I always wait 3 to 7 days. I hardly ever turn ads off. So it's okay if you really want to turn an ad off if you're using budgets at the ad set level, because it doesn't really throw off the optimization. But I highly recommend not turning ads off if you're using CBO, because they're all working together. This is where you guys definitely need to read the breakdown effect. If you don't understand what I'm saying about turning ads on and off, go back to Module 3, grab the bit.ly link where I talk about the breakdown effect, and do more studying in it. And Merly, that sounds like what the next reading for you here. On average, does it take more than 2 to 3 days to test new ad sets when you have more than 4 ads? Yeah, totally. So that's why, especially nowadays, giving Facebook at least 3 to 7 days is going to ensure that you're actually looking at true results and not a false positive or a false negative. If you're looking any earlier than that, Facebook just simply hasn't had time to even generate or even know how to generate the results that you are requesting. So thank you so much for those questions. All righty, moving on. All right, hey, Craig. For interest targeting, Molly recommends 1 to 30. If we ever have a very large interest like yoga, That alone has an audience size of over 100 million. Would that interest be alone in its own ad set? So Craig, this was probably answered when you watched last Thursday's training. The only time I would ever use an interest this large is if I was in extreme scale mode, because this definitely doesn't pass the "but no one else would" trick that Russ and I chat about, especially when you're testing. So the only time I would use this is if I am in extreme scale, if I'm setting up a CBO campaign, and it would 100% be in an ad set all by itself. So great question, but that was probably cleared up last week. When you watched that training. So let's see what is next here. So Carl, test campaign question for Molly and John. Is a high CPM $20 to $30 a red flag? No, definitely not. That's a pretty normal CPM. Are there any circumstances under which you turn off a test campaign in less than 7 days? Not really, because I don't believe you're getting true results if you turn it off less than seven days. That's actually a very normal CPM, and CPM is very similar to the diagnostics that I spoke to earlier. CPM is very much a secondary metric that we look at to maybe tell us that our targeting is off. That's usually it. And or our copy and creative are off. So a lot of what we're learning in these few weeks right now. So I only use CPM as a way to maybe tell me that one of those are off. And this is a really normal CPM, so do not panic. We need to be using success metrics, like what you're actually optimizing for, to turn things on and off. Does Facebook penalize for deleting or hiding comments on ads? So not that I know of. I try to answer as many as long as they're fairly positive, because it does generate social proof. But if people are being hateful or you don't want to deal with it, no worries in deleting them. Just know that it is decreasing the amount of social proof. All righty. All right. Carl said I made some changes to our Dirty Machine ad based on your recommendations. I'd love to get your thoughts. Thank you for all of your guidance. No worries at all. Let's give this a listen or a watch. Okay, so I still think, we are about 4 seconds in before we see this. I'll talk about this a lot more in the creative module. Obviously, the thumbnail that you use needs to be something like this, that's less than 20% text. If I were you, this doesn't look as much like a Keurig to me. I would use an image that's a bit more native looking, that actually looks like a dirty coffee maker, that would really catch people's attention. And then you got to make sure immediately in that first second that we're already hopping into this quote here, right? And sorry guys, I need to turn this down. And then that beginning just needs to be a lot quicker. Like the pace, the quote stayed on a lot longer. Like we should go from thumbnail into the quote and already be into this person talking by right here, like seconds 4 or 5, or we're gonna lose people. Whereas right now, it's not really till 9 or 10. I also still just think there's too much going on here. Like, I kind of I don't know. I don't think Facebook is at scale going to allow you to use this breaking news thing, because they're going to think that you're trying to create shock and awe, and they definitely don't want anything that feels like fake news. So if I were you, I know this like feels fun and things, but I would just have a simple banner down here that's black, that has the words, or a simplified version of the words, the message that you're trying to get across, scrolling across the screen, right? Because Facebook's not going to like this, and this is just like a little bit too fancy to actually get the consumption that you're looking for. So the overlay is fine. This is fine. I love this. Like if you could show that image right there, that's what I was talking about. That interesting image that you could show at the very beginning to catch someone's attention, people are much more likely to stop on something that shows this coffee machine being swabbed than like this robot coffee maker. You know, we got to think about how people consume content and information and what actually makes them stop, which is a lot of what we're going to be talking about the next 2 weeks. So, yeah, this is fine. I think you could remove part of this. I think you could show your solution a little bit quicker here, right? Like we don't see the product in action here until a little bit later, which I don't think will be a huge issue. Yeah, and the end of this is fine. So the biggest optimizations for you, Carl, are right here in the beginning. And also just realize the next 2 weeks, I know you're wanting to get this out, but I'm going to be covering tons of best practices with this too. So be ready for more iterations of that as we move forward, but definitely making progress there. Okay, Iris. Hi, Iris. It looks like she submitted her traffic system. I love it. So she has a print shop. And Iris is one of my friends down on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. She's sharing these beautiful, beautiful antique prints. Wow, I love it. So this is just starting. And so she says, I'm just starting out. I don't have any live campaigns yet. No worries. So she's thinking about starting with buy two, get one free. I think that's brilliant, Iris, especially if you've got your targeting down and you know who you're speaking to and you know they're going to be interested in these. That buy two, get one free will just help overcome any barriers to entry that they might have there. So I think that's a beautiful front end offer for you. And that's something that you can promote in the ad and maybe as a banner on your site once they click over. I don't know if you need the buy two, get third half price yet. I don't know if you need the bundling yet. I think this discount is cool to have on your site. I think for you to start going direct to your site, pretty much using the butter chicken, as Ezra talked about, and this buy two, get one free offer, I think that's a solid acquisition funnel for you, especially since you know, what you're selling is pretty specific and you know who you're talking to. I think that having this discount on the site is totally fine. I wouldn't run any ads around it. And the only other, we'll get to this part of your traffic system as we go to the retargeting module, but setting up a very simple, just one retargeting campaign that's retargeting everybody who's visited your site ever since you just started it, with you know, just a reminder, right? Even a catalog sales campaign that's just showing them maybe products that they visited, or maybe even a reminder about the buy two, get one free offer, just a very general retargeting campaign. That's the best place for you to start. So one campaign with the buy two, get one free that's going to cold traffic, and then one campaign that is retargeting everybody who engaged but didn't buy. And maybe there you either reiterate this offer, or maybe, you know, you do have another offer there, but I think this is pretty strong. So thank you for submitting this, Iris. You're definitely on the right track, and I'm excited to see you get ads rocking and rolling for this. And I would recommend those pop-ups, especially when people are coming from ads. I definitely wouldn't at least have them pop up so quickly because it's going to deter people from the site. But your site's looking amazing, Iris. I'm super impressed. You guys are doing great with the photography, and you've gotten that up so fast. So thank you so much for submitting that. Okay, next up, we have Andy. Hello, Andy. In our ads account, I'm working toward having a more evergreen setup. Currently, we are running a lot of sales. As part of making everything evergreen, I plan to decrease the sales that we're running on Facebook. Right now, we have a few cold and remarketing campaigns that are doing well. I've noticed that whatever I add in sales, they tend to cause dips in the campaigns as they put the ad sets back into learning. Would it be best to have a separate campaign just for the sales? Yes. So Andy, it's totally fine to continue to have these sale campaigns. You know, that is a part of a really solid business because it's going to turn a lot of your warm audiences into buyers. So I always run them in their own separate campaigns. And as long as you are only running the sale for a few days, it really shouldn't cause a lot of overlap, especially if you're running them in their own campaigns. So keep running these sales because they're a part of your customer journey and your traffic system, and it's really important. But just make sure you're putting them in their own campaign, or as you see here, you're kind of resetting and screwing with the optimization of the evergreen stuff that you're running, which, as you expressed, you don't want to do. So really, really good question there, and hopefully that is helpful for you. All right, Teresa, hi dear. Question about increasing campaign budget. I know that we need to take care with conversion ads, but does the same parameters increasing budget apply to traffic ads? So, yep, Joe answered it. Increasing the budget 50% every 3 to 7 days, depending on how aggressive you want to go. I usually tend towards the latter, slower scaling so that it's more sustainable over time, is the same no matter the objective. So thank you there, Joe. All right, next up is DMDU. So this is Digital Marketers Down Under, and this is an event I'm going to be speaking at in Australia in July that I'm super pumped about. Christy's from the team. I'm so glad that you're liking it, my dear. She said, I have a traffic planning sheet. We have a number of campaigns running at the moment. The actual cost I have added in the traffic planning sheet is our campaign spend total. We are okay with spending $100 per ticket. However, seem to be going over as this is currently double. Yeah, so selling event tickets can be so tough. I feel your pain. Christy, if you haven't already, Google something like Molly Pittman event tickets, because I've talked on a lot of podcasts and written a few blog posts about this, because selling tickets can be a bit different from other strategies and sort of traffic systems that we use with media buying. And the reason is that the sales cycle can be so long. You see an event, but you might need to ask your business partner. It might take you a few weeks and you got to book travel. It's a pretty big decision for people. So let's go through this. All right, so your actual costs are a little higher than you think or than you're wanting, but that's okay. DMDU 2020 ticket sales agency at small business, Sonia video explaining DMDU Connect and testimonials. So the best thing that I have found for, I think what you're doing on the back end here, Christy, like our webinars and running testimonials and things like that. It's my birthday, 50% off. All of that's totally fine when it comes to retargeting to help people overcome objections and just to stay front of mind. I would also always have a retargeting campaign that's running that's talking about whatever price bump increase is coming soon, just because that scarcity will help. And of course, there always is one coming soon, the way you guys have structured this. But I think top of funnel is where you guys are struggling here. And what I have found to work best is creating listicles or pre-sale articles, because this is an expensive offer, where I'm going after different avatars. So maybe it could be, 5 reasons that Aussie digital agencies need to attend DMDU. And you go through 5 different reasons they should attend, and on the page you have some testimonials. And then maybe you have 5 reasons that all, Australian digital marketers should attend DMDU. Maybe you create one for bloggers. I don't exactly know your all's avatars. Maybe create 3 or 4. And that will also allow you to go deep into the targeting like I showed you last Thursday to is where right now, I would assume it's probably pretty broad. So I think your retargeting is fine. Where I would focus if I were you, Christy, is in the creation of some, excuse me. Sorry, guys. I got a frog in my throat. Excuse me. The creation of some pre-sale articles that are very specific to the avatars that you guys are trying to reach, because a lot of times people don't even know that events are for them. And if you can show up and, hey, this is the event in your area for bloggers or digital agencies, whatever they identify as, that is a way to catch someone, you know, from a cold traffic perspective's attention versus just this event is great, here's why it's amazing. So Christy, thanks for being here, and I think that'll help you on the top of the funnel there. All right, up next we have Teresa. I've once viewed a training where Molly had discussed how to evaluate your ads and talked about quality ranking, engagement ranking, conversion ranking. Does anyone know where I can find this? So this is module 3. We'll also go deeper in optimization troubleshooting module, which I believe is the format. Okay. Rocking and rolling here, y'all. Okay. All right. We sell all things related to Moringa. This is a largely still unknown in the US, but as many people learn, they are really excited. It's helping lots of people. It's definitely getting more and more publicity all the time, but because most of the products are dietary supplements made purely, I'm concerned about presenting the problem benefits due both to Facebook and FDA. When reaching cold traffic, I see 2 options. Showcase some benefits to those that may or may not have heard of it, boost vitality, energy, healthy joints. No, I wouldn't do any of that. Since this has to do with people's personal health, I definitely wouldn't take that route. Try to reach only people that have heard of it. No, I wouldn't do that either. So what I would actually do is go a little bit broader here. So what are you actually trying to solve? So it looks like you're giving people more energy. So let's focus on that one. So instead of saying things like boost vitality and energy and making them this big promise about their health, which Facebook isn't going to like, you could do something like 5 tips for more energy for working moms, you know? So first off, I think you are definitely a product-centric market. You're not a market-centric market or you're not market-centric of people that have already heard of Moringa. You are definitely a product-centric market. You need to establish some avatars that are going to benefit from this product. Next, this week, we need to go deeper into the hooks and the why. But because you're in more of a sensitive market, instead of presenting and promising that end benefit like boost vitality and energy, we just need to flip the equation a little bit and maybe have a little video or a little pre-sale article or even just a little bit of information that's speaking to people that might want more energy and giving them that information first without coming out and saying, hey, we can boost your vitality and energy, if that makes sense to you guys. I mean, it's the same example with Ezra. So he has 5 makeup tips for women over the age of 50. He's not coming out and saying, hey, are you struggling with your makeup? Something very specific to their face or their health because you're over 50. Just that reposition, and I'm not saying you even need a pre-sale article, but that reposition of just putting information out there that is for that avatar and does speak to that pain point, but doesn't specifically promise this crazy end benefit, that's the route that you're going to need to go down here, Mark. And really anybody that's promising anything that has to do with people's health. So really good question. I'm glad you asked. This will keep you safe on Facebook. Let me know if I didn't explain that the best and if you want some more clarity there. All right, we are making progress. Okay. So, Caroline. Hi, Caroline. Hi, Molly and team. Apologies that this was covered. I'm still watching. I'm finally getting a grip on CBO with smaller number of ad sets and consolidating my audiences. I now have warm, lookalike, and broad. So really quick, Caroline, you'll learn this throughout the class. I would never put warm audiences, really, especially with CBO, in the same campaigns as cold audiences. I always break those into their own campaigns. I've launched a 50% clearance campaign this week for warm and lookalikes. So that's something that I would really only run to warm. I wouldn't run that to lookalike. You need a stronger front end offer, which is running swimmingly, but I also want to launch an early bird list campaign for upcoming winter range drop. Okay, that should go in its own campaign too. My issue, what should I do to avoid my early bird competing with my clearance campaign as I'm using the same audiences? For Black Friday, I ran both lead gen and conversion campaigns, but the conversion campaign was much better ROI. I still want to run them both. So using a different objective for both would definitely help. Putting them in their own campaigns is going to help. You said, would I suggest campaign 1 would be 50% off clearance to warm, campaign 2 early bird to lookalike and warm, campaign 3 evergreen broad. So I do agree with separating them out. But I think, and I'm not sure if you've gone through last Thursday's training, I think that's going to help you a lot with this cold traffic. I would more so, I would have one campaign for 50% clearance warm. I would have one campaign for early bird to warm. I would have one campaign for early bird to whatever cold audiences you want to use. I wouldn't recommend just doing lookalike. And then I would have another campaign that's evergreen to, again, different cold audiences. And if you wanted to run to the same cold audiences, I think it might be okay. I would try to use another objective if possible, if it makes sense for what you're asking for, because it sounds like one, you're asking for the lead, and another, you're asking for a purchase, if I'm understanding correctly. So the best feedback I can give you is you need more campaigns. These need to be split up a little bit more. And yeah, if I'm understanding this correctly. So hopefully that's helpful. Great question. Okay. Next up is about photography. Okay, that one does not exist. What do you think about advertising on LinkedIn? It is super expensive. Okay. Any of you already advertised? If so, what were your results? So I don't know about ManyChat having anything to do with LinkedIn at all, but the only reason I would ever use LinkedIn advertising is if I'm trying to reach someone with a very, 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 very specific job title, and if I'm selling something very, very expensive to them. Otherwise, the mechanics of it just really don't work. There are organic strategies, which I would recommend looking Marcus Murphy up. He's got some good content around that could be good for you, but otherwise I would still lean more towards platforms like Facebook, Google, and YouTube, because LinkedIn's costs are just so expensive. And I'm not sure, Joe, I don't know if you maybe want to tag Mackenzie Lieberman and Carrie here and ask them if they know anything about bot stuff in relation to LinkedIn, but I don't know anything about ManyChat being connected with that. All righty. Okay, Paul, I'm afraid. Don't panic, don't panic. I just launched a Facebook campaign that's working. Woo, I don't know how to scale it. I'm afraid to touch it. All right, so it looks like this is really small. Okay, I'm having trouble seeing this, Paul. So I'm not sure. All right, it looks like there are different ad sets here. So it looks like you have budget at the ad set level. So if you have budget at the ad set level, I've chatted about this a bit on this Q&A call. There's nothing wrong with starting to increase these budgets every 5 to 7 days. So increase them by about 50% every 5 to 7 days. Another way to start scaling is to add some new ad sets, if you would like, into this campaign that are targeting interests that are most similar to the targeting that's working for you here, or even just stuff that you came up with from last Thursday's training. If you want, you could also use all of those interests that you want to target and use in a CBO campaign, and launch a brand new campaign utilizing these post IDs that are already working, and maybe a few new ads if you would like. But Paul, similar to the person earlier in this call who was asking how to scale a test campaign that's working, I would scale under these pretenses and increase the budget for these audiences or these ad sets, while also planning a new CBO campaign that's targeting brand new interests, like we talked about Thursday, that's just going to allow you to reach more people. So first off, congratulations. Second, don't panic. Celebrate it, be in a place of gratitude for it. I know it's scary, but if we come at it with fear, we just tend to make scarcity-minded decisions, and it usually doesn't work out as well. So congratulations, Paul, and let me know what you think about that. Okay, so let's do one more here, and then I will get caught up on the rest of these outside of this call, but I'm glad we were able to get to so many of these today. Okay, Michelle, hi Michelle. For the traffic system, is CPA the same as cost per result? How do you decide which metric to look at? What's your rule of thumb? Also, is the benchmark number based on clicks or conversion acquisition, or does that change? So CPA can mean cost per result, cost per acquisition, cost per action. It can mean a few things. Usually when I say CPA, I mean cost per acquisition of a customer. How do you decide which success metric to look at? So the success metric should best reflect what it is you are trying to get out of the campaign. So if at that step of the traffic system, the goal is to first generate leads from a lead magnet, then our success metric there is CPL. If our goal is to acquire customers, then maybe it's more like cost per acquisition of a customer and or return on ad spend. So it just really needs to be reflective of whatever that one success metric is, or whatever that one thing is that you're expecting from a campaign. And by doing this also prevents you guys from saying, well, I want this campaign to generate leads, customers, and have a 10 return on ad spend, because that ain't how it works. That's why we have to have a full traffic system, because one campaign isn't going to be built to do all of those things. It's multiple campaigns working together. So what is the benchmark number based on clicks or conversion acquisition, or does that change depending on the success metric? So I mean, that changes depending on the metric. It changes depending on whether you're brand new to advertising or you've been doing that for a while. The benchmark is really there for people who are already running campaigns and know where they want to be with that campaign, and just a way to set goals. So definitely nothing to stress about. And Michelle, if you can give me an example of a particular campaign, then I can definitely help you figure out what the proper success metric would be to measure that. And that's something John's going to go deeper into in his analytics module too, which is exciting. So, okay, guys, it looks like we have been on for 90 minutes. This was really fun. I know I've got more to answer here and go back to the ones that are starred here on my list and the new ones that have come in. So I am going to go ahead and hang up, go outside, take a little bit of a break. I've got a quick call, and then I'm on Pacific time right now, so it's early, and the rest of my day is just getting caught up on these questions. So anything else you guys want answered, please put them into the group. This has been fun. I love getting to know you guys. Watching your progress is already hugely significant. And thank you guys for being patient. Get pumped for this Thursday session. It's at 4 p.m. Eastern. It's all about ad copy. This is going to help all of you, please, no matter what business type or how advanced or beginner you believe that you are. This is relevant to you, and this is always one of the most favorite trainings too. So yeah, I enjoyed this time. Joe, thank you so much for being in the group. Thank you for being there when things have been crazy the last week. Again, thank you guys for being patient. Thanks for trusting in us. Thanks for doing the work. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And before Thursday, I'll just see you all in the group. So thank you guys so much. Have a good one. All right. Bye-bye.